she's inspiring a lot of people. She inspired me, and because I didn't know that young people were going to be this engaged in this generation. But a number of years ago in the Canadian Senate, she stood up with a sign that said "Stop Harper" in the middle of the opening of Parliament, which is pretty bloody amazing. So of course I put her in a poem. Anyhow, it's wonderful to have her here today. Her name is Brigette DePape, and she works for the Council of Canadians. And come on out, Brigette.
Everybody, it's so wonderful to see so many friends and familiar faces. I must say I was very inspired by the words of the speakers before me, and I want to acknowledge the Tsleil-Waututh lands that we're gathered on, and acknowledge and celebrate their leadership on Kinder Morgan. So thank you so much. I want to also acknowledge the Musqueam and Squamish lands that we're on. I was recently coming from Ottawa, where I was living for a few years, and I was at the People's Social Forum, which was an incredible gathering of people from across Turtle Island to really build a movement against corporate power. And during that time, I had lunch with my most conservative uncle, who lives in Ottawa. And he said, you know, I had to sell some of my stocks this week. And I said, oh yeah, what stocks were those? And he said, my pipeline stocks. I said, oh, I was so excited that he had finally sold his pipeline stocks. You know, so many conversations with him, telling him about the environment, Indigenous rights, and finally had seen the light. And I said, well, why did you sell them? And he said, because they're not doing very well. Yeah, and that is thanks to you. That is thanks to the Indigenous people here who are fighting pipeline projects, to all the people who are fighting these proposals, so thank you. And just so you know, my uncle is still in good financial situation, but it's not at the expense of communities and the planet. For a really long time, I felt really discouraged and depressed in the context of the pipelines that are threatening the coast and the contamination. Also from mining projects, like seeing the Mount Poly mine spill devastating communities. But it is really amazing to see what is happening today around that, to see what is happening around Kinder Morgan pipeline, to see the mayor stand up with a legal challenge to the Kinder Morgan pipeline. Even just a few years ago, the Enbridge pipeline, that was a sure deal. And now today, the majority of people are staunchly opposed. We're not seeing leadership from our government, from the Harper government, from the Christy Clark government. They're taking us in completely the wrong direction. But we are seeing leadership from the grassroots people, from the Tsleil-Waututh, who boldly mounted a legal challenge against the Kinder Morgan pipeline. And that courage, it makes waves. It's contagious. And we see when one community stands up, it's contagious, and other communities stand up until we create a critical mass of opposition. And that's exactly what we're seeing happening here. We see the devastation around the Mount Poly mine, and I want to give a shout out to those people who are working on the campus level, students at UBC who came here today, who are learning about nonviolent direct action, who are also organizing around divestment and stopping imperialism at the campus level. So thank you to all those young people. Thank you also to the people who are standing in solidarity with the Kablona Keepers, the communities who are setting up blockades to stop mining operations in their territories, and the many people who have traveled there to join them in their blockade. Thank you so much. And they need our continued support. Like Grand Chief Stuart Phillip said, you know, it will take standing in front of bulldozers to stop these projects from happening. Who here is with me and who is ready to stand in front of these projects? We see that this is part of a deeper systemic problem. We see that it's a colonial system and a capitalist system, but we see how deeply things are changing. Like the Chilcotin decision, which recognizes the title of Indigenous peoples to their land and Indigenous rights. Times are changing. We are in revolutionary times, and it will take our continued support. Next week, there is a major climate rally gathering that's happening. There's going to be gatherings happening across the country, across North America, to stop climate change, because we know that it's impacting people at the source, like people who are in Fort McMurray, in Fort Chip. Many people I know here were at the recent Tar Sands Healing Walk to stand with those communities whose water is being poisoned. We know that these struggles are all connected, and it's connected to the struggles of people across the globe, like in places in the Philippines who are being impacted by flooding because of climate change, all the way to people in Kenya because of drought. And these struggles are connected, but today we stand together and we stand united. There's a rally that's happening next Saturday, 1 p.m. at the CBC Plaza. Want to thank so much the organizers of this event who have been really hustling hard to make this happen. And I hope that everyone can tell at least 5 of your friends so that we can be a real, strong, united mass of people for this. There are some legal challenges, and as we face these urgent challenges around climate change, around these pipeline proposals, there is still so much we can do. There are people, 5 people, who have locked down right up this hill to stop Kinder Morgan, and it will take continued nonviolent direct action to stop these projects. And it will take our support of the legal challenges of First Nations against these pipeline proposals, and supporting our leaders when they are taking these bold stances. So to conclude, I want to thank you all so much for being here on this beautiful day, and end with a cheer. Are we going to let Kinder Morgan pass through these lands? To let the Christy Clark government tear up this land against the rights and title of Indigenous peoples? No! Are we going to let Stephen Harper push forward with a pipeline agenda at our expense and against our will? No! Power to the people! I'm also organizing with the Council of Canadians Against Pipelines and Fracking and LNG. And I've got a sign-up sheet that I will circulate if you want to receive updates or help to organize. Thank you so much.